The Consumer Commission is warning of a surge in online retail fraud after identifying 38 untraceable suppliers accused of taking payments from consumers without delivering goods or services. Now, the operators are active across several provinces, allegedly disappeared after receiving payment, leaving victims with little chance of recovery. Now, the National Consumer Commission says that many of these online stores impersonate legitimate businesses or provide no verifiable contact details, making them difficult to trace or hold accountable. For more on this, we're joined by the National Consumer Commission's acting commissioner, that is Hardin Ratshisusu, who joins us now. Commissioner, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it this morning. I mean, we've got a consumer base that is shifting a little bit more to online, but now online is just not safe anymore. It feels like we're living in dangerous times. Good morning.
Morning, Araville and the Newzroom Afrika viewers. Indeed, it's a huge concern for us as the National Consumer Commission. We've been identifying a lot of concerns, particularly in the online and e-commerce spaces, where you have suppliers that purport to be providers of certain goods and services, advertising them online. And consumers, after placing those orders, the products are not delivered. So we have received complaints from the public about this. There are companies that we are able to trace, but we have, since last year, provided a list to consumers warning them about specific suppliers to be wary of in the online market places. So that list now is sitting at 95, and we've just added, this month, 38 more that we are not able to trace. So these are suppliers that we would have sent out our inspectors to look out for them, and in addition to that, appoint tracing agents to look for these suppliers, and they just go, without a trace. And most of the consumers are spending a lot of money. So some products include, your solar panels, inverters, where someone orders, something in excess of 150,000,
Sure.
and that is never delivered.
I mean, that's incredible. You speak about solar panels. Wow. Just the cost of those is astronomical. And I mean, I'm just looking at some of the additional 38 that you've now added to this list. And I mean, Peach Zone Limited is an auto parts false company, then listed over here as an untraceable supplier. But that's auto parts, so that could be quite costly. Belcom's Furniture, imagine spending tens of thousands of rand on furniture and still it not being received at all. There's a Capital Car Hire travel company in KZN. Imagine spending on travel as well and still not getting that being able to be traced. Is there further collaboration here needed with law enforcement, even financial institutions per se, to be able to track down these fraudulent operators who perhaps open businesses in areas and in places, and perhaps greater scrutiny needs to be done from the onset here?
Yeah, Arabile, because this is something that we work together with other law enforcement agencies, and you have listed, a number of suppliers, the kinds of services that we're dealing with here. And I think the last one you mentioned is even travel. So this is worse because we are getting a lot of cases where people planned for their December holidays, they've bought packages, and they've never received any documentation or travel documents. So they are not traveling, they're losing a lot of money. So what we do the closest stakeholder we work with is the South African Police Service. But we can do our best to report. We can report, but it assists the police when we are able to identify the company. So we can report that they are these or that scammers. Some we are able to identify, and those we are able to bring to book. But those we are not able to identify, we therefore then call consumers to be wary in dealing with this, because some of these scammers are not residing in South Africa. So whenever the consumers pay their money, that then disappears from the system, so no one is able to trace this. We also advise consumers to visit this website, in part which is a partnership, of the private sector through the South African Fraud Prevention Service, which is yima.org.za. So this is a website that consumers, before they transact, they can verify the provider they are dealing with. And there are some providers that would come and present themselves as a major retailer. So they just change the name or change the website. Someone may think they're dealing with a reputable online platform, yet they are dealing, with some other scammer who's just here, out to scam people of their hard-earned money.
Yeah. I mean, I know you've just shared the details of that YIMA platform, which is in conjunction with the South African Fraud Prevention Services. But being able to distinguish between legitimate and online suppliers as well as fraudulent ones, is that only going to be able to be done through YIMA, or is there other telltale signs that perhaps consumers could be looking at? And then also discuss the role of social media platforms and that how that possibly aids these fraudulent businesses to take hold.
Well, what we advise consumers is really to pay attention to the providers they are dealing with. You are right, it's sometimes very difficult. So some people are just performing general search queries on your, it could be these bigger search platforms, it could be social media, and people are looking for specials at this point in time. It's Christmas, people are looking for gifts, and these websites would occasionally appear, and someone thinks this, is a very good deal, 70% off, 80% off, quick delivery, and so forth. And that on its own should get consumers wary. We would encourage consumers to really deal through their trusted platforms. So there are platforms that are trusted. There are platforms they can even reach on the phone numbers. It's a platform, a legitimate platform at the very least. A consumer should be able to register their profile and be satisfied that they've gone through rigorous processes where they have some interaction with the platforms. Of course, from the National Consumer Commission, with what we have seen, we would discourage, consumers to rush into making purchases through new and unknown platforms, because some of those platforms could be scammers. And of course, we wouldn't want to stop consumers from, supporting small businesses and so forth. But I think we have now reached a point where there are a lot of companies that are taking South Africans for a ride, which is a big concern for the National Consumer Commission, because we are not able to apply the Consumer Protection Act to help the consumer in those instances. So consumers need to be very, very circumspect, very, particular in who they deal with in South Africa. And if online is a complication for them, there's also an option to buy, through their brick and mortar stores, where they will be able to see who they're dealing with.
Yeah, preferably. Acting Commissioner, thank you so much for the time.